Welcome to the first LTER Network orientation. It's the first time we've tried this, and I'm really excited at how many people we have joining us. My name is Marty Downs. I'm the director of the LTER Network office based in Santa Barbara, California. Every year, the LTER Network welcomes a couple hundred graduate students, along with a smattering of new staff and new investigators. You were probably attracted to working at a particular site or with a particular investigator. You might not even have known that your site was part of a larger network. But you've joined a community that includes thousands of dedicated researchers, including some of the very best in the field of ecology. If you embrace the network along with your site, you'll find a cadre of colleagues that can help you do better work and have more fun, and maybe even find lifelong friends, as many of us have. This orientation is intended to work alongside any onboarding or orientation you might work at your you might have at your site, so we'll focus on the elements that are related to the network. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the many lands that we are on today. To do this, we do this to reaffirm our commitment and our responsibility in improving relationships between nations and improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we can, each in our own way, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. If you know the identity of the Indigenous people of your region, please enter their names in the chat. It's really heartening to see all of that. We have a few ground rules. The LTER network has a code of conduct. You can find it on the website at lternet.edu, LTER Meetings Code of Conduct. It applies to all our meetings and spells out appropriate and inappropriate behavior and consequences. But above and beyond the code, we begin our meetings with a reminder to be respectful, honest, inclusive, accommodating, appreciative, and open to learning from everyone else. We value everyone's time by avoiding distractions and by taking shared responsibility to ensure that everyone is heard. And with that, I'd like to introduce Diane McKnight, who is the chair of the LTER Science Council and professor at the University of Colorado at Boulder. Diane?
Thank you very much, Marty. And I would like to reiterate your point that all of you are now joining a team effort at a grand scale over time and geographic distances and diverse biomes. And I want to emphasize that this network of researchers, we are persevering through this difficult time of the pandemic. And we are using the design of this network that goes back to 1980 with the first sites in terms of prioritizing the measurements that we're able to make. And so how am I illustrating this? This picture that you are looking at is a picture on the right of an orange algal mat in Vongera Stream in the dry valleys of Antarctica that was collected by Robin Thomas, a support contractor with the Antarctic Support Associates. And she has her handheld GPS on one side and a black spatula, which we use to collect these mats from the stream. Old technology, new technology. And we tried to prioritize what could we ask the contractor to do for us, in addition to maintaining the record of stream flow in the Onyx River, which was started by the New Zealand scientists in 1968. She collected 16 samples for us from these two streams in the dry valleys. And this sample will help us address 3 of the 5 core areas: primary production, those algae are growing, Biodiversity, we will identify the diatoms in these samples. There's 50 diatoms, most of them endemic in the dry valleys. And then this information will help us understand the role of disturbance and the variation of stream flow in driving the production and ecosystem processes. So with that, again, each one of you is an important member of the team, a database manager, whatever you're doing, it's a great team effort, and we are persevering and welcome. And I also want to thank Marty and the group at the LTER Network office for all that you do.
Thanks, Diane. It has been quite a year. So the orientation that we're presenting today has 4 sections. First, we'll just cover a little bit of basic general information about the LTER network as a whole. We'll talk directly about some issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the LTER network. And one of the great strengths of the LTER network is our long-term data management. So we'll have a section on that. And then at the end, we'll have about 20 minutes, I hope, as long as we keep on pace, for folks to meet and talk with each other in breakout rooms. So you'll get a chance to actually meet folks from other sites. So this is our opening slide, was a map of the network. National Science Foundation funded LTER network celebrated its 40th anniversary in 2020. We've been going since 1980. Over that time, we've grown from 6 to 28 research sites, not always the same ones, which now include forest, grassland, coastal, marine, agricultural, urban, alpine, Arctic, and Antarctic ecosystems, coral reefs too. Each site is run by a team of scientists that's focused on understanding that particular ecosystem. We are a place-based, hypothesis-driven research network. Many teams conduct very good long-term research, but LTER sites earn NSF funding by specifically by proposing an integrated program of long-term measures, conceptual models, and measurements or experiments Opportunities to establish new sites are pretty rare, and they're highly competitive. So this graphic illustrates the growth in the size of network and the variation in the kinds of sites that have been funded over the years. To maintain their funding, all sites have to reapply every 6 years, and they're reviewed every 3 years. So in the course of your time with LTER, whether you're staff or student, it's likely that you'll get to experience either a renewal proposal or a review process, and that you'll be asked to participate by sharing your science and your experience at the site. Each site is funded and run independently, which means that they often have different administrative structures, different partners. Some are partnered just with universities, others with NGOs or Forest Service, experimental forests and ranges. But they're driven by a number of commonalities. They're driven by the important questions at the site. Long-term observations prepare us to recognize expected and unexpected changes over time. Long-term experiments allow controlled comparisons at ecosystem scales across really diverse systems. The long-term relationships that we establish with educators, with resource managers, with stakeholders in the region, speed the application of new science to management, and maintain relationships with educators and publics that are very difficult to maintain in shorter term projects. And the strong multi-investigator network that LTER is provides a great venue for training students and early career investigators in interdisciplinary team science, all of which results in one of the best opportunities to understand diverse ecosystems and how they function that is available today. All those diverse sites operate within a loose organizational structure that's driven by sites' desire to achieve more than they could alone, and the chance to share resources, ideas, skills, and best practices. It's led by a science council, which is composed of the lead principal investigator from each site, which sets the overall direction for the network. Day-to-day decisions are made by a rotating executive board that comprised of about 1/3 of the investigators at any given time, plus representatives from the major committees. The LTER Network Office is funded independently by the National Science Foundation and works really closely with the Science Council and the Environmental Data Initiative, which you'll hear a little bit about later, and the LTER committees to maintain an inclusive, collaborative, and engaged community that's really focused on long-term research, synthesis, education, and training. At any given time, we might have 8 to 10 active committees, but the primary committees are information management, education and outreach, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those each have a representative from every site, and generally they meet monthly on the same at the same frequency as the executive board, and have a number of working groups that are focused on projects throughout that time. We also fund synthesis groups through the LTER Network Office, and those are comprised of people from both inside and outside the network, and supported in their analyses by both the Network Office and the Environmental Data Initiative. From the very first days of the network, going back to the planning meetings in 1978 and 1979, scientists who developed it took care to include ways to encourage cross-site collaboration and comparison. This slide illustrates one of the big reasons for that. These multi-site, long-term studies are thought, well, there's pretty good evidence, but also a lot of opinion that these are some of the best ways to understand general theories in ecology, is to have long-term observations that we're able to compare across multiple sites. So the approaches that were taken are the core themes that Diane mentioned. 5 were part of the original solicitation in 1980 for the network. Those are primary production, population studies, organic matter, inorganic matter, including nutrients and also abiotic influences, patterns of disturbance, such as fires, hurricanes, winds, variations in precipitation and other factors. And then later, when the first urban LTERs were established in 1997, 2 additional areas with special focus to urban and managed lands were included. And those were land use and land cover change and human environment interactions. So those 5 or 7 core areas are every site measures the important elements at their site that are related to those areas. And that provides a basis for comparison across multiple sites. We also have a number of in-person and online meetings throughout the year. These really help maintain camaraderie and fertilize new ideas and develop a shared sense of purpose. The All Scientists meeting happens every 3 years. That would have been scheduled for 2021. Sadly, we've had to defer that to 2022. So be on the lookout for announcements about the new timing of that meeting. The Science Council meets every year. That's the lead PIs of the 28 sites. Each site holds an all hands meeting. Those are the best opportunities for graduate students to really understand what's happening at their site and how their science fits in with everybody else's. Online committee meetings happen monthly or more frequently. The network office hosts webinars. We have an annual career webinar, and we have orientations like this one. We also have common experiments that have been established across many sites. These include all kinds of manipulations, such as precipitation, nutrient inputs, temperature, biodiversity. The plots at Cedar Creek have been going for, oh God, I should know this, but well over 30 years. Seawater inundation, changes to organic matter, so increases and decreases, rack removal in the case of this image, but also addition of litter in forest sites and so forth. You can imagine that the effect of, say, increasing precipitation or increasing precipitation variability might be quite different in a southwestern grassland, a northeastern forest, or a midwestern prairie. That's one of the real values of the cross-site LTER comparisons. When you push a system, does it always move in the same direction, depending on what the existing conditions are? So if this intrigues you, if you want to connect with other sites, ask around and see if an experiment that's happening at your site might be going on somewhere else. Consider whether a comparison to that site might add to your insight about your own work. We also have formal synthesis working groups to do cross-site comparisons. The network funds regular competitions for synthesis working groups. While there are many kinds of studies that qualify as synthesis, we fund a particular subset that highlights one of LTER's special strengths. That's long-term, well-documented data across multiple biomes. The way synthesis working groups are designed at the moment, working groups of 12 to 18 people combine existing data from more than one site to develop broad ecological theory about how drivers and mechanisms vary across ecosystems. Research teams incorporate diverse expertise, perspectives, and place-based knowledge to analyze data from multiple ecosystems. The network office is based at NCES, which is one of the first ecological synthesis centers funded by the National Science Foundation. And synthesis groups benefit from NCES more than 25 years of experience in data analysis, facilitation, working group logistics, and reproducible research methods. In addition to funding, the staff provide logistical and analytical assistance to working groups. And the topics range widely, from the role of synchrony in stabilizing communities, to how soil organic matter is processed, to scaling the biodiversity productivity relationship. Ideas emerge from many types of gatherings, including the All Scientists meetings, Science Council, and scientific society meetings. So how do you find out what's happening at the network level? First stop is the website, lternet.edu, where we have lots of stories and resources about new network research, people, and events. We're going to pause for a few minutes now to just let you take a look at the network website. And when you come back, I'll have a quiz and a chance for you to weigh in. So just leave the Zoom window open up a browser and poke around the website for a few minutes. Try and answer these 3 questions. What is the LTER Network's Twitter handle? Who's the information at Hornada LTER? And name one of the currently funded LTER working groups. We should probably move on with the presentation. It's been a fruitful exercise for both you and me. So the website is not just a one-way street. There are a lot of ways that members of the network also contribute to the material that appears on the website, and through other LTER social media channels. We have at the moment a very active Instagram account at LTER_community. That's primarily, most of the material on that is generated through the LTER grad student network. So I really encourage you to participate in that process through the grad rep network. There's also a graduate student blog, which has been more or less active at different points, but it's a great venue for folks to share their in-person stories and their perspectives about research in the LTER network. The LTER Road Trip presents accounts of research at a variety of across all of the sites, and it was generated initially by a blogger who visited many of the sites, but we've kept it up with stories from the graduate student writing fellows. And if that's an opportunity that you're interested in, visit the network website and apply to be a graduate writing fellow. We pay $300 per story, and you also get coaching, editing, and mentoring from the network office staff. We also have a wide variety of newsletters. Most of those are built off of the content that's on the website anyway, but it brings it directly to your inbox. Monthly, the network news comes out with events, activities, and announcements about people in the LTER network and recent publications. Quarterly, we have the Science Update newsletter, which is a little bit more externally oriented and has more in-depth research stories. Data Bits is produced by the LTER information managers and is really focused on news and resources relevant to information management and reproducible research in general. And the LTER Opportunities newsletter is an RSS feed of new job opportunities as they come up across the network. That comes out about monthly. There is also an LTER Slack channel, which you can join at slack.lternet.edu. And we welcome you to do that. It's an easy way to send quick messages directly to your colleagues. And coming soon, the LTER Hub is a community platform that will combine a lot of the resources that are currently on the website with a sort of direct messaging service amongst, or a social media-like messaging amongst groups of around particular topics and directly to individuals within the network, where you can set your own communications options and receive as much or as little email as you would want, or just come visit the site and see what's happening there. So I'm going to move on to diversity, equity, and inclusion. If folks have questions on any of the previous material, please just drop a note into the chat.